which we've talked about here on Turn Out, Tune In. Watch a baby breathe and see how far we have strayed from that. We're all in our heads and we're all in our chests. And when you watch a baby let their belly expand, we're also in this cultural mindset of not letting your belly out, especially as dancers.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so there's just such a beautiful, to tune in and to slow down into that. I think it's amazing. And I think that's another really hard thing right now that's happening with the pandemic and COVID, is that we're all being afraid of each other's breath, and that just ties right into but we are all so connected, and, we learn so much, and there's a radiance from our heart that reaches out when you're in the same room with somebody. And right now we're all fear and scared. And so it worries me, that worries me a bit. And so I think on our own, we need to dive into our breath a lot more.
On your own, Romy, is there a certain breath that you gravitate towards when you're just tuning in?
For me, it took years for me to get really comfortable with the diaphragmatic breath, with really breathing and letting my belly go, just because of that holding on as a dancer, and then being a mother, and then not liking the belly that was left, and so being relaxing that belly is so much. And I find I had a really bad back injury during my dancing time, and I always find when my back is really bad, I realize I'm just not breathing. I'm not clenching. And so for me, just focusing on that diaphragmatic breath right now, I'm really into the sounds of toning and finding that really fun to play with every day. There's a system of different sounds that you say, and you tone through the brain and the sinuses and the eyes and the throat and the esophagus into the heart and the solar plexus, and going into the organs and the digestive system and deep into the reproductive organs. So that's something I'm having a lot of fun with right now. I think that's really been feels really important.
Is there a way we can, is there something you can Google, or how do people find out about that?
I think if you Google toning your organs, but for me, I've come across it here many different times, but the one that really what stuck with me this time, and what I'm doing on a daily practice, is Jim Donovan's sound system, sound healing. I've been going through a shoulder injury, and was searching for some frequencies to help me at night to sleep, because it has been really painful at night, and came across his work and some healing vibration sounds that I sleep to. But as part of that little package, it was this body revival toning sounds. And so it's Jim Donovan's. We can put a link maybe to that too. But that's been play with.
That's great. That's great. I wonder if you want to speak to, I know some of the work that I've been involved in, and one of my close friends is very adamant, first of all, that the baby be held on the chest for the bonding, but also what happens when there isn't a bonding, the reptilian brain dominant. Do you know much about that, reptilian brain dominance, where a part of the brain becomes more dominant, and that's the fight or flight response that people have, and they become a little bit more reactive when they don't have that bonding. I don't know if you want to talk more about the importance of that. And I'm sure there are, like you said, the science is coming more and more, but intuitively it just makes sense, not just how you're born, but how you're raised, the circumstances that happen to you, different experiences, that when we go more into reactive fight or flight mode, we are going to have more of a separatism mentality of feeling threatened by another individual, and who knows, how that acts out in each one of our lives and circumstances. I don't know if you want to talk about
that. So I think so it's hard. We've come a really long way. They used to operate on babies without anesthesia. It's almost fairly new that people have acknowledged the sensitivity of infants and babies, and so it's hard when you see a baby being separated from its, it's you see how natural it is and how a baby can come out and not cry and look at their parents and hear, their father's voice for the first time and get eye contact and how incredibly present they are. And then you see babies that are really whisked away, rightly so for some reason sometimes, and sometimes not, just again, getting caught up in protocol. But to me, it's like sometimes it's hard for me, even the simplest thing of everyone's so anxious to hear what the baby's weight is and get the baby all cleaned up. And you see that angst that the baby goes through being separated. And so I'm a huge proponent of, there's just no need to separate a baby. I wish, if I can fight in a hospital for at least 2 hours of that bonding, it's pretty well known how important, they call that the magical hour, is. So most hospitals are pretty, they're going to do it. Most hospitals are really supportive of that. But even that isn't enough, to me sometimes. I'm seeing babies that have latched on breastfeeding for the first time being taken away. And I'm not a scientist, so I don't know exactly the wording and all the scientific evidence of this all, but I believe we can't be, and I think what our brains, especially probably with the new baby as you're developing, I don't think you can't, you can't feel the stress and the pleasure at the same time. It's one or the other. So when a baby's taken away, they're 100% in that feeling and that emotion. And when the brain is brand new, and again, going back to our history of rebirthing, we know how impressionable we are, all of those thoughts and that we form. And so it's exactly like you're saying, like it's, if you go into that place where you're, people used to think crying, babies needed to develop their lungs, and it was really good and important. And but really the stress that's going on in the brain and that cortisol, do you want a developing brain to be bathing in that? You don't. You don't, because that's going to make that's going to keep affecting. And so I think that there's an organization called APA that's all about how important that prenatal, perinatal, all of that, the psychology that's behind how important our bonding and how we treat, and the memories that are actually stored and are in our cells. So luckily the science is there and the organizations are there. It's just that they're not, the practice isn't followed because we have bigger issues of, protocols of not being sued by hospitals and what governs and runs things. And so, yeah, so I think that I would just love for everyone to really question, where they have their babies, who they have their babies with, and take into account things like that. Is my baby going to be taken away from me? Possibly. Of course, in a life-saving situation, there's no question, that's what you want to happen. But again, that's why I want to just educate, don't go into a steakhouse expecting a gourmet vegan meal. A steakhouse is going to have a different specialty than what you may be wanting.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Romy, I think that your story is in part how we can find new passions, after dance, because we find dance at such a young age and we never think that we're ever going to love something quite so much. And it will never be quite the same as it was as a dancer, but we will find other things that move us and make us feel part of life and connected to life in a very different way, but just as powerful as it was for us as dancers. And then your story is really about healing and consciousness and bringing babies into this world and trying to make this world a more beautiful place on a personal level and on a global level. And I just, I so honor the woman that you are and the work that you're doing. And I'm just so proud to be able to have this conversation with you and share you with everybody. I just think you're amazing.
Thank you. We were blessed to have such an amazing mom.
We're really blessed. Yeah, we're really blessed.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And shall we share with the viewers the reason that we're playing the music that we are at the beginning and at the end of these segments is because you want to tell?
Yeah, that music is from Ravel's Bolero, and that was the music that our mother was born to. We said she was a home birth, and that's what our grandmother was playing, and so that was the music of her birth. And so that's how we start and finish Turn Out, Tune In, is singing
Right.
our dedication to our mom.
Yeah. Yeah. With that,
Thanks for hearing my story. I can talk on and on about that subject, so
we
welcome more
can do more
talks.
segments if we ever get feedback that people would like more information. We'll do more segments on this. So, okay. Thank you, Romy.
Thank you.